as 1st of February is approaching, a lot of anticipation is just wrapped around the fact that the union budget is coming out, and this anticipation is around every factor. Will there be changes in taxation? What will be the agenda of the government? What will be the top priorities and what not? So this clearly signifies the fact that the budget session is the most important session of the parliament, and this is where we get to see the amalgamation of economics, politics and also accountability at the end of the government. This is the place where the government seeks parliamentary approval to collect the taxes and spend money. And that is why it is important for you to understand, because this money that is being spent is not of the government but all of yours who are paying the taxes. Hello everyone, welcome to Vajram and Ravi's Flash News. My name is Shubhangi Singh, and in today's session we will be discussing all the details around budget, how exactly the process unfolds, what are the figures which are presented, so that when you are reading the budget you have a fair clarity that how this process has unfolded for you. So let us begin with understanding that why budget has been in news. As I said, 1st February is approaching. The parliament session on budget, that is the budget session, is in front of us, and there are few key concerns that opposition has already taken up that will be brought out, and the union budget will also be presented. So let us begin with understanding that what exactly is budget, and then we will gradually move to the process itself. So when we are talking about budget, you have to imagine it just like your budget. So let's just say at the start of the month, you get your salary or you get your pocket money. You will be deciding what are the expenditures that you are going to make and what are the places from where money will come. One particular place is the salary or pocket money, or maybe you have other income sources as well. And then you will finalize that how the expenditure of this month would look like to ensure your utilities, to ensure the luxuries that you want, to ensure certain purchases, rental, etc. So when you do this at the national level, it becomes the union budget. In the formal language, it is not in the constitution present as union budget. In our constitution, it is mentioned as annual financial plan, and this exact key term has been used in Article 112 of our constitution. Now when we are talking about the union budget or the annual financial statement, annual financial plan, it shows that what will be the estimated receipts. So let me simplify this for you. Estimated receipts mean from where the government is going to earn and how much money the government is going to earn. Then this budget also looks into that where the government is planning to spend that money. Is the government planning to spend it on schemes? Is it planning to spend it on salaries? Is it planning to spend it on development? And it also brings that what are the top priorities of the government in this particular financial year. So when we are talking about financial year, it is from 1st April to 31st of March. So in the upcoming financial year, that is for 2026-27, this union budget is going to come out, and as per the decision where the money will be going, we will understand government's top priorities. How? For example, if your salary is coming and you have decided that you have to take a trip, no matter you have to compromise on utilities. So we understood that your top priority is to travel. Similarly, if the government decides that they have to spend in defense more, they have to spend in development more, development of roads, ports, highways. So we will understand that protection of our country is the top priority, infrastructure of our country is top priority. If the government spends more on the schemes, then that means social development is the top priority. And for this very plan, this is formally presented as union budget by the union government itself. Now the presentation of this budget takes place on 1st February. Now this date has been in picture since 2017. Prior to that, it used to take place at the end of the financial year. But there was a problem here. If the budget is being finalized at the end of the financial year and all the formalities take place another 2 months, then when will the government, where will the government have the money? So there will be an administrative paralysis, or there has to be a spare money set aside to make sure that government keeps functioning for rest of the 2 months, which is basically the vote on accounts. So to do away with that problem, 1st February is the set date, and in 2 months, Feb and March, the budget is finalized and the demand of grants are approved, then appropriation bill takes place. We will be understanding all of this from here. So in short, government is seeking approval for whatever expenditure and whatever money that they are going to get, and if this approval does not come through, then there is going to be a paralysis. That means government cannot function without the sanction of this budget, and that is the prime highlight of this budget session that is going to open in the parliament. Can you tell me in the comment section how many sessions are there of parliament, and if you remember that, you can also name them. Like one I am telling you is the budget session. Now we will be moving to understand that what are the things that are presented in the budget. So we will be starting with few of the estimate. Every budget basically gives 3 set of estimates to us of 3 different years. So when you are looking at these estimates, the first estimate is the budget estimate. When we are talking about budget estimate, you have to understand that this is the proposed estimate, that what might be the income and expenditure of the upcoming year. So when we are talking about budget estimates, that is for 2026-27. If your month is starting today, then you will be thinking about, okay, this is where I want to spend, this is where my money is coming from. It might happen that way, it might not happen, but this is what you have thought. So this is the proposed income and expenditure format that the government is telling, okay, we have decided this. But when we are talking about revised estimates, these are updated figures of the current year. That means the current financial year that is already running. This is the next year. As of now, if you are talking about financial year, we are in 2025-26. So these are the updated figures of 2025-26. Reason being, when 2025-26 union budget was presented, they also had budget estimates, they had proposed, but what actually unfolded, what actually the expenditure was, what actually the income was, they expected, let's just say, taxes to amount almost 50 lakh crores, but that did not happen, it went more than that. So that is the revision. It is basically like you decided I will spend every day 100 rupees only on usual expenditure. But in the mid-month, you do an analysis and you realize, okay, I have not spent 100, rather I have spent only 70. So that is the revised estimate of the current existing year. And then we are talking about provision actuals. This is of the previous year. The solid data, solid numbers, verified numbers that have come of 2024-25. So whenever a budget is presented, these numbers are clearly highlighted, and they are highlighted so that people sitting in parliament, members of parliament who are our representatives, they can have an actual comparison. They can say, okay, last year in the budget you said certain other numbers, but revised estimates are showing something else. What happened to that? When you were quoting revised estimates back in the year and the provision actuals are variable here, what happened there? So the answers that the representatives want, they can be only asked if these numbers are presented, and a proper comparison can be drawn by the members of parliament in this scenario. And this is what facilitates the actual work of the parliament, where the parliament is able to check that what promises were made and what is the performance as compared to those promises. Now we will straight away jump to the process of the budget presentation and approval, starting with the first stage where the budget is presented. As I said, every year the budget is presented on 1st of February. It is presented in Lok Sabha by the finance minister, and it is done through the budget speech. An important point here is that there is no discussion that takes place on the presentation day. And once it has been presented in Lok Sabha, then the budget is laid before Rajya Sabha as well. Now another component that you should be aware about in terms of union budget is also the economic survey. Now economic survey is presented before the budget, And what does it do when it is presented? It analyzes what exactly is happening in the economy. It looks into what has been the growth, what are the inflation numbers saying, where is the unemployment standing, and also the key challenges which are present. So basically, it serves as an economic background document. It tells you where the economy is thriving, where the economy is suffering, so that the budget can fix all of this. So think of economic survey as a diagnosis. Okay, this is the problem, this is going right, blood sugar is okay, diabetes is okay, but cholesterol is running high. So what needs to be done? Then budget comes into the picture. So economic survey is put forth first so that you can understand that what is going in the economy, and then you can compare that actually is budget trying to help the economy or not. So after the presentation of budget comes the second stage where we get to see general discussion. If you remember, on the presentation day, the budget speech where it takes place, there is no discussion at all. So this is where the discussion comes into the picture, and this is the general discussion. Now this discussion takes place in both of the houses, Lok Sabha as well as Rajya Sabha. And the duration that is given for it is usually around 3 to 4 days. Now here the discussion is not very specific. As you can clearly see, it is the general discussion. So the general discussion focuses on the broader framework of the budget. What exactly is the budget's philosophy, the sectoral priorities, if the opposition wants to highlight if they are set right or not, and what can be the impact of this budget on different sections of society. There is no specific or section to section discussion that is going to take place in general discussion. And after this general discussion, whatever are the grievances, issues, praises, they are replied back by the finance minister. Again, an important factor that you need to remember for general discussion, there is discussion but there is no voting, and there are no cut motions which are put in place. This stage is present so as to ensure that what is the political narrative of the budget and what is the tone of the budget across the political setup in our country. This is where we get to see that. Then comes the next stage where we get to see proper scrutiny, and this is where the detailed scrutiny to the T happens, because this is where departmental standing committees come into play. When we are talking about adjournment, it is basically a temporary break between the sitting of the parliament. It could be for days, it could be for hours. So in this context, parliament is adjourned for 3 to 4 weeks. In this very context, can you tell me that how adjournment is different from prorogation? Now, when the parliament is adjourned, this is where departmental standing committees come into play. 24 departmental standing committees are going to examine that what has been put forth in the budget by the ministries, by the departments as demand for grants, because these ministries, departments, they need to spend the money. How they will spend, that has been pitched by them. But will that be approved? Is that pitch right? Have they told the right numbers? That needs to be understood, and that is looked into detail by these departmental standing committees. Now, when these committees are looking into the demand for grants, they are seeing, okay, one particular ministry has asked for more money for the same scheme, but how has that scheme performed in the last year? How has the utilization of funds been in the previous year? And is the policy bringing any change or not? So all in all, after this assessment, a proper report is built and it is given to the parliament. Now, this is the stage where the real scrutiny, and especially in technical terms, because this is where we have the technical expertise. When we are talking about our representatives, they might lack in terms of that. So this is the stage which is the most technical and also non-political in terms of scrutiny for the budget takes place. Now, after the scrutiny, technical scrutiny has been done by departmental standing committees, that's when we come to the next stage where each ministry presents its demand for grant. And when we are talking about demand for a grant, you have to remember, these are very important things from the perspective exam, that the voting power for demand for grant is only with Lok Sabha. Rajya Sabha cannot vote. Each demand is voted separately, that means no demands are clubbed, and only votable expenditure is put to vote. When we are talking about charge expenditure, especially when we are talking about Consolidated Fund of India, that can be discussed but it cannot be voted at all. And once the demand for grants are approved, these demands are granted and they become a grant from demand. Now this process is not that easy. There is an added layer of cut motions and guillotine which is present. Guillotine, one of the most controversial aspects related to budget, we will be talking about that also. First, when I am talking about cut motions, there are multiple ways where the demand for grants can be addressed by the Parliament. For example, there is a demand for grant and the members there introduce policy cut motion. Whatever was the demand, let's say they demanded 200 CR, but the demand was slashed and it was brought to rupee 1. Now, this is one way of saying that we do not accept this policy at all. Whatever was the demand, 100, 200, whatever, it has been slashed and reduced to rupee 1. This is a significance of the fact that we are not accepting this particular policy. Then there is another cut motion, that is economy cut motion. That means whatever is the demand, we are going to reduce it by some specified amount. So let's just say demand was of 50 crores, but here we are going to reduce it to 38 because we feel there is some wasteful expenditure that is happening here and we do not want that. So economy cut motion is brought in. Then we have token cut motion. This is where only rupees 100 is deducted. So 50 CR minus rupees 100, and this is to say that there is some flaw in the policy, there is some flaw in the demand. You address that. The only reason we are cutting this is for addressal of that grievance. Can you tell me in the comment section, if the cut motion is passed, will the government stay or it will lose confidence in the Parliament? Another aspect that is associated with demands is guillotine. For example, demand for grants are to be voted, but there is only limited time present in the budget session, and once the final day arrives, guillotine is used as a provision where all the pending demands, they are voted without any discussion. Before this, all voting was taken after discussion, but once the final day arrives, then we get to see all the pending demand are being voted at once without any discussion. That means there might be demand for grants which were not even seen by your representatives and it has been passed. So in this context, guillotine becomes very contentious and controversial, has been in news multiple times, almost every time the budget is presented. Whenever guillotine is used, it has been in news. That's why it is an important key term for you as well to remember for the exam. Now we have reached to a stage where all sorts of demand for grants have been approved. But when the government wants to withdraw money, it cannot do without a law. There has to be a law in place when the government can withdraw money. So this is done under Article 114 and that is for appropriation bills. Government, if they want to withdraw money, they have to do it with law, and that is not possible if they want to withdraw money without any law. So appropriation bill comes into the picture, which authorizes withdrawal of the government that they make from Consolidated Fund of India, be it for the voted grants that have been done by the Parliament or the charged expenditure that is made from Consolidated Fund of India. Can you tell me the difference between charged expenditure and voted expenditure from the Consolidated Fund of India? Now, any amendment, now whatever has been the total number, that cannot be changed. So there is no amendment. So there is change in the amount or purpose. Whatever has been finalized is presented in form of an appropriation bill, and when that bill is given assent by the President, it becomes the Appropriation Act. after this, the government can go ahead and withdraw the money from the government accounts, be it Consolidated Fund of India or others. After that, we have another stage where we have to look into vote on account. I mentioned it in the start. So initially, full budget process. So whenever budget is present, this whole process almost takes 2 months. In this context, if the budget is presented in March, it will automatically go beyond 31st March or by end of March. So Lok Sabha had to grant vote on account so that there is some temporary amount of money to avoid government paralysis, to avoid the shutdown. And this vote on account was valid usually for 2 months. But if there is an election year, just like we saw in 2024, then this is for 3 to 5 months. And this is given directly after general discussion. Now, because the budget has shifted to 1st February, vote on account is only used for interim budget, which we saw in 2024. Other than that, there is no usability. Now, moving to another factor that is added in budget process, that is the finance bill. Now, when we are talking about expenditure, we need appropriation bill. But if we are talking about any change to taxes, any changes to revenue measures, that also government needs to get approved. And that is given legal effect by a financial bill. This financial bill, if it changes tax proposals or if any changes in tax or revenue measures, it is treated as a money bill. Now, money bill holds an immense power in this context because it is treated just like a money bill. It can be used to reduce or reject taxes or discuss economic policies. It must be passed in 75 days, and once President has given the assent, it becomes the Finance Act. So, when we are talking about appropriation, it completes the expenditure side. And when we are talking about finance, finance bill, it completes the income side of the budget, where government gets a proper law for withdrawal also or any changes on the income end as well. There are certain key articles associated with the budget. You should be aware. For example, I have mentioned Article 112, Annual Financial Statement, then Article 113, which talks about voting on demand for grants, Article 114, Appropriation Bill, which is mandatory for any withdrawal, Article 116, which talks about vote on account, Article 117, which talks about finance bill and money bill provisions. If you want to look into the differences, you will find it in Article 117. And Article 265, that no tax can exist without authority of law. Understanding budget is important for all of us so as to understand that where our money is going, what is the process to it, how our representatives are answerable, and that is what makes the budget session one of the most important parliamentary controls, and that is why it is important from the perspective of exam as well. Now, on this note, I will be leaving you with a practice question here. You can put down your answers in the comment section. That was all from my side. Thank you so much.